Okay, well, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. This is my first time doing something with headphones. Great to see you all, and welcome to our session, Achieving Personalization at Scale with Amazon Redshift and Twilio. We're incredibly glad you're here today, especially with all the great content and different options you have to choose from. We're glad to see you in this session. We've got a lot to cover, but first, let me kick it off with some introductions. I'm Robin Groschel, VP of Product for Twilio segment, and I'm joined by my colleague, Asha Chakrabarty, the VP of Product for Twilio Builder Experiences, who you'll hear from in just a bit. I want to say hi real quick. All right, great. So here is what we've got in store for you today. First, we're going to explore the challenges of building personalization at scale, something I'm sure many of you have grappled with firsthand. We'll break down why it's so challenging and why this challenge hasn't gone away yet, despite a ton of effort. Then we're going to dive into the core pillars for achieving personalization at scale, including how AWS and Twilio segment fit into this picture. After that, we will bring it all to life with a live demo. And finally, we'll hear from Matt Miratello, VP of Engineering at the Skim, and Manasi Jagannatha, Head of Strategic Partnerships at AWS, and they'll share some real-world examples of how companies are tackling personalization at scale. All right, so why are we even talking about personalization today? Why does it deserve a spotlight? Well, it's simple. Companies that win create personalized experiences. Think a bit about the businesses that you interact with and that you love most. They don't just slap on a "Hi, Robin" on an email and leave it at that. They strive to make every interaction feel effortless, convenient, and tailored to you. And the numbers back this up. According to McKinsey, companies that excel at personalization generate 40% more revenue than those that don't. So knowing your customer really pays off. Less than half of companies think they're doing a good job at this. And what's worse, only 15% of their customers agree. So let that sink in. Despite how valuable personalization is and the investment being poured into it, most customers feel that the companies they're interacting with are falling short. And it's not for lack of trying. Businesses are pouring billions of dollars into this problem. 96 billion is poured into CRM tools, investments in CRM tools alone. So with that investment, what's the holdup? What's the problem here? And the short answer is, it's a really hard problem. And that problem all starts with data. There's data in every corner of the business. It's hidden, it's siloed off from other teams, colleagues, and systems. And the various tools and systems that are used across these teams, they don't play nice with each other. They're not integrated. They're not connected with the rest of your tech stack. They're just simply disconnected and don't talk to each other. And because of this disjointed view of customers, it makes it impossible to know which touch points or channels are best to engage with them, especially on an individual basis, let alone at scale when you're working with thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers. And all of this makes it incredibly hard to connect the dots across teams, systems, and truly know your customers. And what's worse, your customer-facing teams who are interacting with your customers, they don't have this context either. So to solve this problem requires focus on three key pillars: contextual data, communications data, and trusted AI. I'm going to drill into each of these. Let's start with contextual data. When we say, contextual data, we mean the data that gives you the context about your customers and helps you understand them holistically. It's your objective data. Basic information, name, address, purchase history, loyalty points. The second bucket is behavioral data. What are customers doing on your website or your mobile application? How are they browsing? Are they adding items to their cart? Are they abandoning items in their cart? And the last bucket is conversational data. What is being said between you and your customers? This can be via phone calls, SMS and email exchanges, or even on messaging tools. Together, all of these data points create a full, context-rich picture of your customer. And without that complete picture, personalization falls short. So making sense of all this contextual data is arguably the most important part of providing personalization. And because if you don't have a clear sense of your customer, you certainly can't personalize for them accurately or effectively. And tech stacks today have become so convoluted, something that looks like this here. It's so convoluted, so complex that it's really a Herculean effort to try and connect and reconcile all of this customer data that's out there, let alone doing it in a consistent or a real-time manner. But the truth is, good customer profiles are the heart of personalization. And without that complete customer context, you'll never be able to deliver the real-time, impactful, personalized customer experiences that consumers are demanding today. So this is what you want your profile to look like. A comprehensive view of all of your customers' activities, their characteristics. You've got some AI in here where predictions, with this data, you can start to do things like how likely are they to convert, what's the next best action, which we'll hear more about in just a bit here. And so how do you get something that looks more like this? Well, this is one of the key roles of a customer data platform, or a CDP. Twilio Segment CDP helps stitch all these various data points from various systems, diverse systems, into a single, unified, identity-resolved profile with all of the context about them, including the data that may be housed in a data warehouse like Amazon Redshift. So with this accurate and reliable customer profile, you can more effectively target the right customers and personalize your communications with them from any of your business tools, for marketing use cases, customer service, e-commerce, or any use case. So now, for the second pillar, I'd like to hand it over to Asha to talk about communications. Oops.
Thank you, Robin. So for our second pillar, why is communication so vital to achieving personalization at scale? Well, it's because every opportunity that your business has to actually interact with your consumers matters, irrespective of where you're at in your customer acquisition lifecycle. Whether your customers are considering your brand, whether you are trying to convert prospects to customers, whether you're trying to build relationships for retention, or ultimately just cultivating advocates for your business. So it's not just about what you say, though. It's about reaching people on their preferred channel, using the right systems and the right technology, while staying in budget, and at the same time ensuring that your communication and your messages are getting delivered. In fact, 91% of global consumers actually expect businesses to reach them on their preferred channels. But when we say preferred channels, it's kind of a loaded term. And that's because preferred channels, it varies on a number of different dimensions, such as region, your use case, the generation you're dealing with, as well as consumer-specific sentiment, which can be anything from perceived level of urgency to something as complex as brand loyalty. And meeting these preferences is hard. Most of the time, providers often cannot handle the global scale, throughput, and compliance needs, leaving your consumers without receiving your messages. Siloed teams and channels are disconnected, leading to communication preferences also being disjointed. To add to the complexity, consumer preferences change in real time. And lastly, how do you know that you're actually interacting with a real human being on the other end and not wasting a budget on fraud or spam? As businesses, when we miss the preferred channel to engage with our consumers, we miss the mark. And that leads to opt-outs as well as overlooked messages. But what if? What if you could deliver one seamless, integrated experience across channels, across teams? How would that look like? So I'll use an example that all of us are going through right now. It is the hotel experience. We're all here in Vegas. A let's say you're going to check into your hotel. You walk up to the front line, you're waiting to check in, you go, you exchange some information, you get your room key, and you go up to your room. Now the best case scenario for personalization is that you see your name on the television. Hi, Asha. But what if, instead of having to wait in line, you get a text message on your phone letting you know that your room is ready and that you can check in with one click? What if you get up into your room and you get a push notification from the hotel asking you to confirm if you'd like to order this dinner and a smoothie because they remembered that's what you ordered last time? And you just click confirm and you get your food. What if your hotel knows that you're here for business and sets up a fast and easy way to book your ride in the morning for your first meeting? And they take it a step further. They know that you're a VIP who stays at this hotel pretty often, and they give you complimentary late checkout. And to top it all off, at the end of your stay, you get an email saying, thank you for your stay. Here's 10% discount on the beach resort that you normally go to with your family. Now that is personalization. However, personalization does not matter if there's no person to actually engage with on the other side of that communication channel. This is why verification is essential to the online relationship with your user. By verifying that a user is actually who they say they are, you can reduce spam and fraud on your site and also ensure the user's security and protection. So this ideal scenario can be a reality, and this is something that Twilio works with many customers on. By relying on Twilio's global super network, you can ensure that your recipients aren't left waiting for your communication. Twilio provides a breadth of communication channels for you, from SMS, messaging, email, so that you can communicate on your consumers' preferred channels with rich centralized insights, and with consideration for message failover delivery ensures that you're optimizing for reach while also attaining global scale. And above all, establishing trust with verified users and also ensuring that you're verifying trust with branded senders. And by doing that, you're ensuring that you're engaging with real people by authenticating users, and you're also letting consumers know that they're engaging with legitimate businesses through branded features such as RCS and branded calling. And so this brings us to our final pillar that Robin alluded to before, which is trusted AI. So I'm sure most people here are not surprised to learn that AI is one of the core pillars of any company's technology strategy today, and for good reason. Almost 88% of companies actually say that they will be using some sort of AI/ML tool within the next year. However, only 15% of those companies actually are able to realize any sort of benefit or contribution to their bottom line. So let that sink in for a minute. Close to 90% of companies say that they will be incorporating some sort of AI capability or AI/ML tool in the next year, but only 15% are actually seeing any impact so far. So why are so many businesses actually experiencing this trough of disillusionment, this discrepancy between what could be and what it is today? Well, that's because AI isn't a strategy. It is an enabler of your strategy. This is why it is the third pillar in achieving personalization at scale. Because without foundational data to understand your customer and without the communication tools to reach them, AI will be left waiting to see the results. And so the most important thing to do is to bring your AI closer to your customer data. And by doing so, not only can you better understand your customers individually and at scale, but also you enable your teams to be more efficient, and you're able to deliver great experiences through automation. And so recapping what we all talked about here, the 3 pillars to build personalization at scale. Number 1 is contextual data. In contextual data, this is really about understanding your customers holistically with objective data, behavioral data, communications data, and conversational data. Together, these data points will create this full context-rich picture of your customer. Without this, personalization falls flat. The second pillar is your communications tools. It's not just what you say, but also how you say it and where you say it. Customers expect you to meet them on their preferred channels, whether that's email, SMS, voice, or video, but these preferences vary widely by region, by use case, by generation, by customer sentiment. The key really is delivering the right message at the right time and on the right channel. And lastly, trusted AI. Again, AI is not your strategy, it is an enabler of your strategy. And by adopting AI paired with great data and communications tools, AI helps you personalize and automate your workflows much more seamlessly. So at this point, you all must be thinking, okay, Asha, this is great, but how do you bring this all to life? Well, I'll walk you through just a quick one. If you're a do-it-yourself person, how can you utilize Twilio and AWS together to actually take these Lego blocks and build a personalization at scale architecture? So if you look at everything on the left-hand side here, these are all your different data sources, as well as channel sources, such as email, SMS, messaging, data warehouses, cloud applications. You pump all your data into Twilio's segment, where by using Twilio's segment, you're ensuring the privacy, integrity, and compliance of your customers' data. Twilio segment supports activating this data to over 450 plus destinations. Similarly, inclusive of our AWS services as well. So whether you use SageMaker for predictions or Personalize for recommendations, or good old S3 for cloud storage, so you can further process that data in cascading systems. Alternatively, if you don't want to use the individual Lego blocks and build an architecture across Twilio and AWS, Twilio has built a set of capabilities that allow you to essentially not worry about the undifferentiated heavy lifting of putting that architecture together. We provide AI-powered instrumentation with copilots, AI-powered identity resolution, advanced predictions and recommendations, as well as automation of your workflows. And there are a number of associated AWS products that we build on top of that allows this as well. But now, more importantly, let's see it in action. And so I'll call Sudhir to the stage to provide a demo for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Asha. So my name is Sudhir Chakka. I'm a Solutions Architect Director. So let's walk through a quick customer's retail journey and see how you can elevate their customer experience through personalization and bringing the right contextual context here. So here, our customer Shane is actually navigating a retail website here. And based on the session here on the left side, as you can see, it's an anonymous data right now because that means he's visiting this website for the first time. So it's it's an anonymous session. We don't have much details about Shane other than that he's browsing through all these websites. And while he's doing that, we are able to collect all this information, like what are the products he's viewing, things of that nature. And let's say he likes this particular shoe. He comes in here. Unfortunately, this shoe is out of stock. No worries. What we're going to do is, Shane is going to sign up for a notification here. And while he's doing that, he's going to provide us some information, including this identifying information email. So when he submits this form, what we're going to do is we're actually going to segment and see if we've built this relationship with Shane in the past. Turns out we did, right? So the segments Identity resolution, what it does is it takes the existing profile information. That's because they've done business at a physical store in the past, but he's coming to the website for the first time. So we were able to merge both the profiles, the anonymous profile and then the existing profile, be able to build all of that using our identity resolution. So what that means is when Shane starts a web conversation, a web chat, the virtual agent now has some information about Shane, right? It's both. It's the current information of what they've browsed, what they've done so far, and also their past history, their habits, their style information or style preferences, things of that nature. So I want to just zoom in a little bit here. And so let's say Shane asks for, hey, give me some recommendations on my shopping experience. So the virtual agent has access to all this information, so it's able to provide you very fine-tuned, personalized recommendations at this point in real time. So let's say Shane clicks on one of these products. He looks at this All-Star high shoes, and he says, hey, you know what? I need to talk to someone about these particular shoes. So the virtual agent, what it does is it takes all this information and immediately transfers Shane to a live agent. So let's switch gears a little bit here. And I'm going to go into the live agent view here. So as you can see, the Shane's request came into the live agent. And when the live agent selects Shane, it's going to present a dashboard of Shane here. And this is all powered by Twilio Segment. All the information about their customer preferences, their past history, some of the customer insights which Segment was able to build based on that previous information. So all that information, including some of these AI recommendations, are now available to the live agent. In addition to that, the live agent also has access to some of the historical information, what the products they've used, or also maybe previous interactions they've had. So with this information in place, and once they accept the request here, the additional piece of information the live agent has is the actual interaction that Shane had with the virtual agent. So that way, it's a seamless transition from a virtual agent to a live agent. So that way, the live agent can just jump in and provide that personalized human touch without Shane having to repeat all that information there. So let's pretend that the customer already answered their questions and they end the conversation. So when they're on the conversation, what we can do is we can take this real-time conversation that happened. Again, this is across the channels. So right now I'm showing a web chat interaction. The same thing is similar whether they come in through a voice, maybe a text message, things of that. It's a very similar experience. So we are able to generate the sentiment analysis of this conversation. We are able to summarize the whole conversation. And all this information gets fed back into the same Twilio Segment profile, enriching the profile every time they are having the touch point with the retailer. So let's complete this conversation here. And then we still need to help Shane to notify when the products are back in stock. So I'm going to switch over to Segment here, the dashboard. So this is linked audiences. Essentially, this is think of as a no-code interface for your business users, for them to be able to create, segmented users based on all the traits for this customer profile that we've been building. In addition to that, all the data, business data coming from the associated data warehouse. So we just announced a beta of LinkedIn audiences that works with AWS Redshift, which is the warehouse that we're going to use here. So what LinkedIn audience is powered by is a technology called data graph. Essentially, think of this as a semantic layer, which is building that relationship between the customer profile that we've been developing from all these touch points with the business entities in data warehouse like Redshift in this case. So as you can see, the profile is now connected with all the orders, the product information, the product inventory. So anytime the inventory changes, it goes all the way to the profile information. And finally, once the business users are able to filter and figure out which users need to be notified on what conditions, you want to define some sort of activation on this. An example of an activation here is get all the right information, their details, maybe the products that they viewed, and all that information, pass it to a webhook where you want to send a notification on their preferred channel. As you can see, if I switch over back here, actually, we had all the preferences available at the profile level. So now we can decide what channel we want to send this notification to Shane. And in this case, Shane preferred an SMS here. So what we can do is we can immediately send a text message to Shane. We're using Twilio, the RCS power text messaging, so that way we're sending a branded message, and the customer gets the trust and gets the relevant context here. It's not just that, hey, it's available, but you're providing all the right context at the right time and on the right channel. So that's end of this particular use case. But again, this is just a beginning of what kind of customer experiences you can build if you're able to get the right context combined with AI across the channels. So let me switch over here. So what you saw so far here, what Robin, Asha discussed, the demo that I showed here, it's all powered by the partnership between Twilio and AWS. We've been a partner with AWS since 2018. We have 2,500 plus customers jointly between Twilio, Segment, and AWS. I'm going to pass it back to Robin.
That great demo. Great to see all that personalization at scale for personalization for Shane and for all of our customers. So we are going to pivot and have a little fireside chat here. We're just missing the fire. But if you want to actually just advance one for me, I just want to reintroduce Matt and Manasi. Thank you both for joining us today. We are excited to think about how you all are thinking about personalization at scale at your companies. And to get us started, Matt, if you could tell us a little bit about the Skim and your role.
Sure, thank you for having me. So I'm VP of Engineering at the Skim. Skim, for those that may not know, we are a 12-year-old startup, we like to think of ourselves as. We reach 16 million users across email, mobile, and podcasts. And our flagship product actually is the Daily Skim, which is an inbox read, which delights millions of users on a daily basis with our take on current events, sports, and news in general. So what I do at the Skim is I manage the engineering and data teams, and I ensure that we have the platforms, the tools, and the ability to reach our users, and not just reach them, but ensure that we're able to delight them and to imbue sort of personalization into the experience end to end, and then collect that data to provide insights.
Great. We're going to come back to that delight in just a bit here. Manasi, how about you? You're obviously with AWS. We're all here today. We know a lot about AWS. Share with us a little about your role.
Yeah, Robin. So I manage a team of partners, mainly in the business application space. So Twilio is one of our partners for the past 6-7 years, like Sudhir mentioned. And outside of that, right, like with 6-7 other partners, we sit together and figure out how do we build better products and work backwards from our customer needs, for example, right? Like how do we meld like Redshift and Segment, and how do we bring it to life as either a co-build motion or, right, like just selling together. That's what my team focuses on.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it sounds like we certainly have the right people to talk about personalization here today. So Matt, you mentioned personalization and delighting your customers. You obviously you shared with us the expansive ecosystem of over 16 million subscribers through newsletters, podcasts, a mobile application, Skim Lab, your in-house creative agency. Can you share with us how the Skim approaches personalization and customer engagement?
Sure. So we actually have we started embarking on a project about a little over a year ago, which really was a top-down sort of evaluation of our data warehouse and ecosystem and infrastructure. And as part of that, our goal was to understand the data that we have, ensure that it's in the right the right form factor for us to be able to actually leverage it, and started really more and more using Twilio Segment as our sort of hub, our centerpiece for how we were approaching personalization. And ultimately, started building out personalization features that we layer into our products. We spend a lot of time focusing on our email products. And with email, given the nature of the platform, there's a lot of work that we need to do up front to send out an email to 5 million, 6 million, 7 million people on a daily basis. So any sort of personalization that we put in place, we knew that we were limited when it came to email in doing something that's more real time. So a lot of data pre-processing upstream, a lot of enhancing our pipelines from a content production and data ingestion standpoint to along the way enrich our data and really build features to delight our users.
Speaking of building features, I mean, can you share with some of those critical touch points? Like, where do you find in that customer journey are those delightful experiences materializing? Where you see personalization having the greatest impact?
So, focusing on our Daily Skim flagship product, what we've been able to do is we've been able to take an experience that really was the same for all of our recipients and layer in personalized features based upon, like, let's say, location, providing a local weather forecast sort of in the header so that people know and can prepare for their day and sort of tee up what they need to accomplish during the day and understand what the weather is like out. Beyond that, actually, we've also integrated functionality and features that provide our readers with the ability to enter journeys. And those journeys actually are sort of an interactive back and forth, even though it's email, it winds up sprawling onto the web. And between all of those various platforms, we're able to have users essentially personalize their experience. So they're getting the news that they really want, the information that they really want on a daily basis. We've also been able to do things like take engagement data, primarily with an email-based platform. We have clicks and opens. So being able to understand not just who is clicking, but really understand what they're clicking on, when they're clicking, and what we've done is we've taken that and sort of been able to build out things like interest graphs that we're able to then feed back into our system and provide things like customized links that really are there to delight. They're there to really be the most relevant content at the time when it's the most important to our readers.
Fantastic. Time for everyone to subscribe to the Skim if you haven't already.
Please.
So, Manasi, with your role at AWS, you obviously get to work with lots of different customers. Is what Matt described common? What is the AWS perspective on personalization?
Yeah, no, great question, Robin. I think from my vantage point, day in and day out talking to customers, I see three common things that they ask for. One is breaking down data silos, because customers use many business applications, specifically in the enterprise business context. They use Segment, they use a CRM platform of their choice, and then they also have other platforms. So they're like, how do we connect and meld all of this and break down that silo? So what you're doing in the Segment context is very, very relevant. And that's one request. And then the other request is there's a lot of innovation happening up and down the stack, whether it is Trainium or whether it is at SageMaker. So I think customers are asking us to be able to amalgamate all of that and then give them a solution where they're like, hey, I'm trying to solve a use case, a business use case, work backwards from that and help me figure out what are the different platforms, different solutions I can plug in to be able to be more effective. That's the second piece. And then the third piece is security, right? Like I think there is an element of being overwhelmed by choice, right? Like there are so many options out there. They're like, hey, do I use this? Do I use that? What is the end-to-end option that will give me a secure option to be able to say, hey, I'm able to personalize my data, I'm able to break down those silos and still make sure that I don't have to think about end-to-end security. I think those are the three things that I hear customers trying to solve, specifically from a personalization context.
That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe a close cousin to security is really privacy from a
Yeah.
consumer standpoint. And so I want to touch on something that I call the personalization and the privacy paradox. And so you have, on the one hand, customers want these delightful experiences, which can only be done through collecting the kind of contextual data you described, how they're engaging with your emails, location data. But on the other hand, only 51% of customers trust brands to keep their personal data secure and use it responsibly. So consumers want data-driven personalization, but don't really want customers to have the data. So, how do you grapple with that? I'd love to hear from both of you how you think about data governance while pursuing personalization objectives.
So I'll start. Data governance and security and privacy are always at the forefront for us with any feature that we're building, especially the more and more that we sort of become data-driven. We think about not only the security and privacy and ensuring that we're shepherding in all of our platforms users' data, but also we do sort of take that step back, given the balance that you called out, to ensure that we're thinking about the personalized experiences and how they're going to be perceived by our users. How are we ensuring that we're not just making sure that their data is private and secure, but also ensuring that that comfort level exists to know that we're going to be thinking about, considerate, and being thoughtful about any of the features that we're going to build. So for something like the weather widget, we give people the option to be able to go and update their location. They have, other options to do things like, like I was saying before, customize their journeys. So giving users tools and options to be able to communicate back to us and provide feedback is critical.
Yeah.
I think I'll just add one thing to what Matthew said. I think industry and vertical context is super critical, right? Like especially regulated industries, customers in healthcare and public sector. The conversation starter is this, data governance, right? So we've been learning a lot from these customers about, what are the bounds and checks and how to think about this, and then applying those learnings across other segments. So that is something that I think in the past 2 quarters that I've seen being emphasized. That's the only thing that I'll add, right? Like in terms of learning from industries that have been masters at data governance, right? Like how do we bring in that context into day-to-day consumer context? Yeah.
That's great. Manasi, I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit on AI and the role of AI in personalization. So Gen AI is obviously a huge focus for AWS as well as your customers. How are you seeing customers integrate AI for personalization and customer engagement type use cases?
Yeah, great question. I want to go back to the slide that Asha shared, I think, where every company is looking at AI, but only 15% see the value. Right. So when we talk to customers, I think it is very clear that they're trying to solve business problems, right? Like they have specific use cases that they're trying to solve. So we work backwards from the customer in terms of understanding what is the specific use case you're solving. For example, right, like in a business user context, if they use a CRM platform and they use like a communication platform like Zoom, right? The context between those two, right? Like how do we create a SaaS data lake? So working up and down the stack in terms of understanding, hey, I use these 5 business applications, help me understand how do I create value, how do I save time, right? Like I think that's the critical problem that I see people solving, right? Like how do I get more efficient? And then they do that in multiple ways, right? Like it's either 1, by reducing cost, or 2, by figuring out how to use these various services either at the chip level or at the inference level, SageMaker, Bedrock, right? Like we see customers innovating up and down the stack, but the key is understanding what is the business problem they're trying to solve and then plugging in the various services, right? Like whether it is working with a partner to solve a business use case, and then layering on our AWS services like Bedrock or SageMaker. I think that's how we're solving the problem for customers.
It's really what Asha said, is that AI in and of itself is not a strategy, it's an enabler of the strategy. So what are the use cases you're trying to solve, and then you all can help guide with the right tooling. Matt, how are you all approaching AI as you think about customer engagement? How are you incorporating that into your strategy?
So actually we incorporate it in a number of places, and as Manasi was saying, we're sort of layering it in to some of our core use cases that we currently support, in that we're using things like NLP, machine learning, and really using that to better understand our customers, to train internal models that can tell us based upon trends with engagement and opens and clicks, make predictions about what people would like, content recommendations. From a Gen AI standpoint, we're very much sort of in the exploratory phase at this point. We want to continue to sort of evaluate the landscape. One of the tools that we're looking to use is Party Rock, which we find from like an AI sandbox standpoint will be very helpful for us. There's a lot of opportunity there for us, obviously. So we're using AI, as I was saying, that's non-Gen AI in a number of places, but we're still sort of formulating our strategy around a Gen AI sort of approach and where that best fits in for us.
Okay, that's great. I think you're a good company there. Well, I just want to thank you both for being here. This was great. Want to thank you all for joining us today. We'll hang out here. The speakers will hang out for just a couple minutes after this, but please do come visit us at our booth. We'll have the demos that you saw, some additional demos that we'd love to show you. So hope to see you there and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.